Shapeshifting is a topic that I think is really important when discussing empathic abilities, and especially when learning how to empower empathic abilities. Now, when I actually first posted one of my links on the website about my class coming up that's called The Art of Empathic Shapeshifting, somebody had commented on the Facebook page that they thought it was ridiculous, and they asked, like, what do you mean by shapeshifting? And they thought I literally meant like turning into an animal or a tree in a literal sense, which is actually not what I mean at all when I'm talking about shapeshifting. I love the word shapeshifting because it just to me, it's how I feel when I use this ability that I'll be talking about in this. But it's really just a fun way of describing how to lower or raise your frequency to either create the environment that will best serve your expansion, to consciously create it, or to consciously be a person or experience that someone else needs in their healing journey. Now, the reason why I think this is important to talk about with empaths is because often when if you're naturally someone who can do this, who can read energy very sensitively, then you'll often shapeshift unconsciously. You'll often, if you find yourself in a room with a bunch of people, you will lower or raise your vibration to fit whatever the temperature of the room is. And this is what most empaths do. Of course, like I said, there's many different types of empaths, but I'm speaking very generally. Usually an empath in a situation with a friend, for example, they can sit down with them, and someone who's highly empathic will shape and shift to whatever that person needs, or whatever vibration the person that's with them needs in that moment. And I think a lot of the empaths that I've worked with, when I've done intuitive readings with them or just worked with them in the classes that I do, they've expressed this as something that can actually be quite frustrating for them because they can feel so unknown, but they often won't know how to show their real selves to people. And as in the 2 other videos I released that I sent an email to all of you for, when I talked about shapeshifting transaction versus regular transactions, or transactions, like when I say transactions, I just mean an experience with somebody. So if I'm having a day out with a friend and it's a shapeshifting transaction, it's one in which I'm just sort of being what they need to be. And often people do that for us too. I think we do that for each other all the time. We're all each other's mirrors. So this is not really anything mind-blowing in terms of a concept. But I do think empaths do it more readily and all the time, and there's other people who have other gifts, and there are other people who hold very strong vibrations. And so a shapeshifter will naturally shape around what that person needs. And obviously, as an empath, when an empath is unskilled and unhealed, as I've talked about in other videos, they'll do this often to their detriment, and they won't realize they have the ability to control when and how they shapeshift. And I want to give you an example of this. I'm in a new city right now, and I met with a friend yesterday whom I haven't met with in a really long time. She's a great friend of mine, also just a very intuitive, empathic, magical person. And she's been studying a new topic of a type of being. I won't go into specifically what it is, but right before she came, I had been randomly interested in this same exact topic, one in which I've never actually been interested in ever, about a specific kind of being. And so I'd been kind of watching stuff about it and reading about it a little bit, and then we hung out, and we didn't know what day we were going to hang out. When we actually did hang out, which was yesterday, we didn't really know specifically why. It was just kind of random how it all came together. But it turns out, as she was driving to meet me, she said, "Why am I meeting with Amanda today specifically? Like, what's going to come out of today?" And they told her, "Oh, she is one of these beings that my friend had been studying." And it's so interesting because, and then she was like, oh yeah, of course she is. Like, yeah, I never noticed that about her, but she is that. And when she told me that, I found like my reaction, it was interesting because I have never thought of myself as this type of being ever, although I know I can take attributes of anything I want. I can become really anything I want to become, just like we all can. But someone who is empathic, you can naturally shapeshift again to that. You will in other words, when someone looks at you, they will get out of you what they need to get out. They will experience you as they need to experience you in order to learn whatever lesson they need to learn or expand or not in whatever way they need. And this is true of everybody. I mean, we all, like I said, this is a holographic universe, and we all do this, and we all do this for each other. But I do think empaths tend to do it as more of maybe a soul mission, so to speak. I don't know if that's the right wording to use, but I think maybe the intentions that we set, and we just naturally do it, and we do it very well. And as I said before, there are some people that hold different vibrations. Like the friend that I met with yesterday, she literally can go into any dimension and work with any type of being, but she kind of holds her own vibration. Like, I don't feel like she can shapeshift if she wants to, but she holds a very clear vibration where, of course, everyone gets what they need to out of her. She's also a teacher, but her vibration is very clear, whereas mine is very lucid. I have had people describe me of everything under the sun. I mean, it's so shocking to me what I will become for people. But I've noticed when I start intentionally becoming things for people, as soon as you're aware of what you do, you become that power becomes stronger, and then when you set an intention with it even becomes that much stronger. So in this interaction I had with my friend yesterday, as soon as she said her guides had told her that I was this being, I was one of them, it was so interesting. I became it, and I was able to, I know this for some people might sound really strange, but I felt like I was able to access what this type of being or person feels like, looks like, acts like. And I asked her, I said, well, why do you think I am, like, what made you think that? Because she said she had thought it before. And she said how I look. There was a whole bunch of things, which is so funny because I've had other people describe me as other things, all based on the attributes that she was saying, but in totally different experiences, totally different categories. So, and it's funny because I've been getting ready for my class on the art of empathic shapeshifting. And then I had this experience where I was literally seeing myself and feeling myself consciously shapeshift for her, which she was right that is an aspect of me. But as an empath and as a shapeshifter, we can literally consciously choose to go into any shape that we want. And for me, and I know many other clairsentients, we can experience it physically in our body. So we have the vibration, the emotion that we literally pick up within us, and we carry it we'll carry that energetic signature, and it'll be that for somebody. And so the day yesterday was just crazy awesome, but she kept asking me all these questions about this particular being, these types of beings, and was saying, well, this is great because she has this aspect about her too, but she was saying this is great because I've been talking to them in the etheric realm or the astral plane, but you're the first person I've got to talk to in the physical that could represent them for me. So it was a really interesting transaction, an example of a shape-shifting transaction that was interesting to examine as I've been studying this topic of shape-shifting. So another thing about this is I had asked the universe to provide a situation for me where I could practice shape-shifting, and then that just came up where I hadn't really in terms of this particular category of beings, it never even really occurred to me to shift into that shape or vibration for somebody. So it was very fascinating. It was a fascinating experience. And as soon as I left her presence and came back to the place I'm staying, I felt like I was able to clear myself and enter back into that place of clear, still water that I've talked about in other audios about when you can enter into an emotion or an experience and totally feel it out and put it on, but you don't become attached to it and you don't identify with it. And then you can come out of it just as quickly. But what happened for me, and this is what I think is the powerful thing about what empaths can do when they shapeshift, is that as you pick up that vibration and experience it, you integrate it more into who you are. And as we are all things, because we're all one ultimately, and we're trying to heal. I don't like the word trying, but I think part of what we're doing here in this dimension is healing the fragmental aspects of ourselves and bringing them all together. So for me, by going into that experience of shifting into that being that she felt that I was, and that she could totally see in me and recognize in me, it helped me to integrate that type of being into me. So this was really, it's just a fascinating thing. And I think I'm going to, again, in the class that I'm doing, I'm going to be talking very specifically on how to do this, and for practical reasons and for fun reasons too, because you can do this, like I said, to, if you're an empath and your sort of core desire is to help people, or you're a healer, or you work with people in any sort of intuitive way, it's a great thing to learn to do very consciously to help serve them. And as an empath, you'll be able to read what they need and then sort of match that vibration. But you can also do this just to have fun. Part of what my friend and I were doing yesterday was having fun and learning at the same time. It was just crazy fun for people who are into this kind of stuff. But you can also shift your vibration to experience in meditation other realms, other dimensions, go on the astral plane, do remote viewing or astral projection, any of those things that if you're interested in the esoteric world, shapeshifting is a great way to do it. And I think empaths, at least again in my experience and with people and friends that I've talked to that do this, if you have a really active emotional center and you naturally can read energy very well, then all you have to do is feel out a grid of whatever you want to experience, and then enter into it fully. Once you know that it exists and it's there and you can reach the energy of whatever it is that you're looking to experience, you can enter in and out of it really easily. So I've found that for me, for example, it took me a little bit to practice what it felt like going out of body. But as soon as I felt it, and I felt what the astral plane feels like to me, to my being, then it's much easier to do it. And I think the reason why I had a hard time going out of body specifically is because I'm clairsentient, and the way I access extrasensory information is through my physical body. But I found a way to actually go out of body by using the sensations within my body. So, again, these sort of specifications of how to shapeshift and what it is and what you can do with it is what I'll be covering in the class that's coming up. But I wanted to share this with you guys because it's an aspect of empowering your empathic abilities, and also an aspect of just having fun with the fact that we're human and we're multidimensional. And if you're not interested in this kind of stuff at all, and you just think that aspect of being empathic is really impractical and boring, then you can just sort of take this with a grain of salt. But it's an aspect I wanted to cover in this 21-day challenge. So I hope you guys are doing well, and we'll be seeing you tomorrow, or talking to you tomorrow. Ciao.